Well, there you go. Let's have on.
Nashville Predators.
Then why don't we have on Alex Doherty next time? Why don't we do that? All right, Tri-City Sports Now. Came a story on Yahoo. I'm Marky Billson, by the way, with the Trooper, Andy Slagle. We've just spoken with Steve Forbes. We've learned that Notre Dame is losing victories that we all saw them win. Let me one last thought before I get to the NFL coaching hires on that. Are you of my opinion, too, that Notre Dame is really yesterday's program?
Yes, but that happens to a lot of teams. You got just like SMU. They got hammered, and I mean they used to be really good, and you can say Tennessee.
I was getting to that.
Tennessee is the same thing. And you have these teams that's coming up and building, and it just takes time. Everybody looks back and say, well, we did this back in. Well, it don't matter. It's right now. What's happening right now? Like Tennessee, you're losing to Vanderbilt, Kentucky, everybody else. But, you can fix that. You just got to get the right people in place, and it's with Notre Dame. Notre Dame, yeah, they 9 wins, but is a traditional Notre Dame fan going to be happy with that?
They have not won. I mean, you think no national championships in 30 years. And, now Navy isn't even, an absolute victory anymore. And I do think that a lot of it comes, two things, the emergences of conferences and not the emergences of conferences come with emergences of TV networks. Whereas once upon a time, Notre Dame, when they first signed with NBC, Lou Holtz is there and all of this. That was huge. They had their own TV network. Now, the Big Ten network, the SEC network. That advantage is not there so much. And plus, around here, I can't remember if this is still done, but, in the South, around here, I can remember you'd cut into the Notre Dame game around somewhere in the middle of the second quarter because you had the Jefferson Pilot SEC game of the week was going to go on from about 12 to 3:30, and Notre Dame was kicking off at 2:30 on NBC. So, yeah, Channel 5 was going to, and I think that most fans around here, they wanted to see the SEC matchup on Jefferson Pilot. They still do that?
The game of the week?
The Jefferson Pilot game of the week on, I'm trying to remember if that, and that was usually like the 4th best SEC game, this sort of thing. You'd have the
South
best,
Carolina and Kentucky.
Yeah, that would be something like that, and you'd have the Primo game was always going to be 3:30 on CBS. You'd have the number 2 game would generally be the 7:30 game on ESPN. And then, some cable networks, ESPN2 might have the 3 game. And then you would have that, number 4 game. I remember one year Tennessee, Alabama was that, and people were thinking, how far has the 3rd Saturday in October fallen that, it's on Jefferson Pilot now. But, that sort of thing. Anyway, speaking of football, Andy Slagle and I, the Trooper, and I'm Marky Billson, are going to, you mentioned you liked the Frank Reich hire of Indianapolis. I agree. I think that getting the offensive coordinator of the Eagles was, look, would you rather have the offensive coordinator of the team that wins the Super Bowl or loses the Super Bowl?
Or the defensive coordinator gave up 41.
Yeah, I think that, well, there you go. I think that they come out ahead, especially when you consider how poorly Bill Belichick assistants have done, with the only exception Nick Saban in Alabama. But, he'd won the national championship before he went to Miami. You know what I'm saying?
And granted, he's going to have a tough job at Indianapolis. That program is...
You get Andrew Luck. I mean, that's the one
maybe,
thing. And that's
because he was talking about another shoulder surgery, wasn't he?
Yeah, there's a possibility. You look at...
And then you got Brisket.
But I think that Frank Reich was honestly the best hire of, and for what I say, you get the right-hand man of the Super Bowl champ, especially coming out ahead after you were scorned by Josh McDaniels, who I don't think would have been a good hire. And so I thought he was the best, but Yahoo has selected, of the 7, John Gruden.
No.
And I am in agreement with you there. He's the biggest name. He's the sexiest hire.
But that's the media's take on that things. Everybody.
You're in the media now, so you gotta. Okay, well, you're on our side now.
But you get what I'm saying. That's what everybody. Yeah, he has a good quarterback there at Carr. He might be able to do some big things. There. But it's kind of, let's wait and see. I want to see it. And that with Gruden, I think he has the most to prove because he is the biggest hire, per se. But I think he still will have the most to prove, and he'll have a lot of weight on his shoulders because he's been out of the game. It's just like when Tennessee fans was wanting him, why?
Yeah, why? For whatever reason, I do think that the, shall we say, scuttlebutt of Gruden to Tennessee was what got him the Raiders job. I think it made him a viable candidate again. And, again, Tennessee fans are like the only people that had this real, desire for Gruden, which didn't make a whole lot of sense and was a lot of wishful thinking of, he was a grad assistant under John Majors and all that. So he's going to want to work for Phil Fulmer? How does that wind up? This sort of thing. Admittedly, that doesn't fit with the timeline. But, yeah, you're talking about a guy who's been out of it for 9 years. And to give him the A or the best hire, perhaps it does have the most upside potential, but I think the odds of getting that upside potential are long. And I do wonder. I mean, being away from the game 9 years, admittedly, Dick Vermeil was away for a long time.
Didn't the Raiders trade him to the Tampa Bay?
Yes, they were, Tony Dungy was getting fired when he probably shouldn't have, and he was able to, and he inherited a turnkey team.
Yes, and he just, I think he has the most to prove. I mean, I could be wrong. I still think one of the better coachings, it's not a new hire, but I think the 49ers coach is going to, I think he's going to do a great job out there at San Francisco, and, I think, you got McVay at L.A. I mean, he's got there's a lot of good coaches right now in the NFL. Young coaches.
Let's look at the hires here. They give the former ETSU assistant Steve Wilkes at Arizona a C. Really? I mean, is Steve Wilkes that horrible? I mean, anyway, but I guess the idea is that he was the only defensive coordinator of the Panthers for 1 year.
Yeah.
Matt Nagy with the Bears, a B-. I don't know if I really think Matt Nagy is that sexy of a pick coming from Kansas City, which seems to be a very dull offense, to tell you the truth. Worst coaching hire, I think, and they give it a C, they don't give it the worst coaching hire, is Matt Patricia, because Belichick assistants don't win. B, he didn't have a good defense last year.
No, I just, it's the same way with the McDaniels. Everybody was wanting, they see Belichick and they just automatically think it's the same way as Saban assistants.
And why, when your bread and butter with Detroit is Matt Stafford, and the idea here is, has Stafford gotten his full potential? Why do you hire a defensive coordinator as your head coach? Well, and not a real good one either.
That's Indianapolis.
That's Detroit.
Or Detroit, yeah. Well, Detroit, Detroit's been right there at the top, right there at the brink of trying to do something. I just think they took a big step back. You got to get somebody in there that with Stafford. He's a thrower. He's good. He's a good quarterback. You got to get somebody in there that works with him. Maybe he can hire good staff.
Pat Shurmur was going to the Giants. Was from the Vikings. Was given a B. Of course, John DeFilippo, and I'll get to this, goes from very popular quarterback coach of the Philadelphia Eagles to the offensive coordinator of the Vikings. Teams overwhelmed with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I know that's. I've often said what with the Vikings literally having 3 good quarterbacks and the Eagles having at least 2, plus a quarterback-rich draft this year. There's no excuse now for you not to have a good quarterback in 2018 at the helm of your team. There's no excuse for having a Tyrod Taylor or, a I'll go out and say to Colin Kaepernick. I know he's a whipping boy in East Tennessee and all that, but I never was a Kaepernick fan. And I always thought he was overrated. And certainly someone who just, out and out stinks. I mean, from my youth, like a Cliff Stout or somebody.
Johnny Manziel's coming back.
Yeah. Well, is he? I know that we talked a little bit about that, and he talked to some sound bites here, as a matter of fact, that I can play of Johnny Manziel. Now that you've mentioned that, yesterday it was on Good Morning America. Said I'm bipolar, this, that, and the other thing, and he wants to come back. He actually, I thought, came off rather well, but he's got an 8-game suspension to come back on. He talks a little bit here, Johnny Manziel, of all he was being through. Well, let's first of all look at that bipolar medications. It's legitimate. It's very legitimate. So let's see what he has to say about taking bipolar medication.
About a year ago, sometime around like June or July, I went to a facility in California. At the end of the day, I can't help that my wires are a little bit differently crossed than yours. I can't help my mental makeup of the way that I was created. But I know that if I stay on these meds and I continue to do what I'm doing right now, I think my dad, I think my mom, I think Bree would all agree that they've seen a drastic change.
And of course, if you've got some depression issues, don't hit the sauce.
Going back throughout the last couple years of my life, I was self-medicating with alcohol. Like, that's what I thought was making me happy and helped me get out of that depression to a point of where I felt like I had some sense of happiness. But at the end of the day, you're left staring at the ceiling by yourself, and you're back in that depression and back in that hole, that dark hole of sitting in a room by yourself, being super depressed, thinking about all the mistakes you've made in your life. What did that get me? Where did that get me except out of the NFL?
Okay, I gotta say, he's got a suspension. If he ever were to get reinstated, and I mean, he's only getting older, he would have a suspension. I think it's 8 games that he would have to go through. I mean, I'm going from memory right there.
Maybe if he starts working out now, he can get a try with the XFL.
I'm thinking more, I mean, if all this is sincere, I don't mean to, be sarcastic or anything of that nature to
But we just heard this before.
Yeah, no, we've heard it before, but the one thing I was going to say, I don't think he has a future in the NFL because you have a suspension on top of it, and do you want to take recovering alcoholic quarterback with suspension issues, or do you wish to take young 23-year-old who threw for 9,000 yards in college and try to develop him for less money than what you would probably potentially? I guess Manziel isn't really in a great leverage circumstance. My thing with Manziel, I think his talents sort of look at the CFL.
Yeah, he's a mobile quarterback. I mean, it's what his calling point is. His calling card. He's a mobile quarterback, and he's been out of the game now for a while. And if you look at him, if you look at the pictures, you look at the stuff on social media, he's not kept in shape. So is he going to be able to be in NFL shape? Is he going to be able to develop into a pocket passer? Is he going to have the discipline to develop into a pocket passer? Because unless he's kept in really good shape, I just don't see how he's going to be able to use the same sort of talent that he has in the league.
I think he's CFL.
I
think he's CFL, and
Arena.
You're right there. Arena is down to 4 teams, and they pay nothing.
Well,
okay. I mean,
it's better when he's getting paid now.
Well, possibly, but they've got it still has millions. Hopefully, hasn't partied it all away. I want to get back to the coaching thing. We mentioned Gruden. The other thing, I think Shermer, they give him a B. I agree with that, and all this. You do too, evidently. Mike Vrabel, C-. Now, I don't think the Titans should have made a coaching change. I know Marky wasn't a popular man with some fans, but I just don't think that you win your first playoff game in 14 years. And I thought he has a pedigree. I thought he had things in the right direction.
I wasn't happy with him when they first hired him, but he did win me over. He turned the Titans into it, and they didn't put up the stats. They wasn't the most sexiest team, but they won football games.
I will say this. Would you rather have Dick LeBeau as your defensive coordinator or Dean Pease?
Yeah.
And, I mean, you now have Dean Pease where you could have had Dick LeBeau, who may be, 150, but even so is a young 150. And, no, I mean, certainly is perhaps the only man to ever make the Pro Football Hall of Fame based on his coordinating abilities. So, for how many years do we hear that Dick LeBeau is the best defensive coordinator in football, and you lose that? Look, I'm not sure that that's a good thing for the Tennessee Titans. The thing is, I do think Vrabel probably was a good young up-and-comer. C- for the Titans. The decision to fire Malarkey, okay. Vrabel, you've got a decent coaching timber, I guess is the cliche that people use.
With young quarterbacks, I'd rather you see them hire an offensive coach.
And Malarkey's a former sure-handed tight end.
Yeah.
And Vrabel, his offense was being a sort of a novel back out of the backfield. He played in the box for the Steelers and the Patriots.
Malarkey's offense is quarterback throwing touchdown passes to himself.
Which we saw work in the Super Bowl, for that matter, for Frank Reich and for Nick Foles and such. But, And one thing I wanted to say, though, about all those coaching, the Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, let's face it, the Eagles, the middle of last year, they had the look and the feel of this is the best team in football. But then Carson Wentz got hurt, and that's when Andy Slagle, you said, maybe this team is beatable. Turned out they weren't. But the loss of the offensive coordinator, the loss of a very popular quarterbacks coach. Look, I've heard the rumors, everyone from Jim Caldwell to Deuce Staley to bring in as the offensive coordinator. But I think the potential of a bad OC hire is really the only thing that can stop the Eagles from being maybe the next dynasty in the NFL. What are your thoughts?
Well, Doug Peterson does a lot with that offense, so I think that the OC. I mean, heck, he called all the plays. I believe it. I hear that right. So I mean, they're going to have to. It's going to have to be somebody good. I mean, Carson Wentz comes back, and I mean he's dangerous. But I don't think the Rams is going to be as hot. I do think the 49ers is going to be an up-and-coming team. But the Eagles, it's theirs to lose. It's theirs to lose because they showed everybody, because everybody doubted them in the Super Bowl. Everybody knew it was going to be Tom Brady going to win his sixth and everything else. But, Doug Peterson, if he keeps on with that offense the way it's going, with Carson Wentz coming in there and Nick Foles, he's an amazing backup quarterback. So, I mean, it's just theirs to lose. It's theirs to lose.
Well, I got this with the theirs to lose. Like I said, a bad OC is the only thing that I really see that can stop the Eagles. Then again, you got to figure right now that Nick Foles is not going to be the backup of the Eagles. I'd be surprised after winning the Super Bowl. I think someone would like him. I think he's Jeff Hostetler in this century, if you will. And my question is, if you were a team that needed a quarterback, let's just throw out the Bills to be one of those teams, and you say, you know what, the man won the Super Bowl. He was, 4 years ago, I mention this all the time, 27 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. What, Andy, would you say Foles is worth in a trade on the open market?
It depends. I mean, I feel like you have to. He was kind of a little bit inconsistent. They had to kind of build the playbook around him with that RPO. If you can find a team, I think the Bills would be a good fit because they've had that Taylor. They have that Taylor. They have that guy that can the offense to be mobile and move, and that's what Nick Foles wants. That's how he's successful. You've seen that in the Super Bowl. I think that'd be a great. The Bills. But
if I'm the Bills, what do I give the Eagles? You just put first, so I'm guessing you'd give a first round pick?
Yes. I would for Nick Foles. I mean, he's young. He's a young guy. If you can get him in there and put him in there, and he'd be successful. But I mean, he did have that little bit of inconsistency at the end, but he has been successful before in the past. So I mean, you just have to. I'd throw in first round because I mean, what's most teams like that going to pick? They're going to pick an unproven college quarterback in the first round. So why not get somebody that has won a Super Bowl? They've been there and played well, beat Tom Brady. You know, went through, and played really good against a good Vikings team. Won of them games like that. I mean, you either get an unproven college quarterback or a proven.
By the
NFL.
way, I'm not huge on the draft class this year like some people are. I mean, you know, Rosen, what did UCLA do this last year? I like Bradford, to tell you the truth, and people are reminding everyone that Oklahoma quarterbacks, hey, that's the Big 12. I don't play defense there. You know, it's going to take them a million years to develop, that sort of thing. I will go, yes, I think Foles is worth a first-round pick, but I do not think he is worth anything more. If the Eagles were trying to get out of that, okay, give us a 1 this year and a 2 next, no. There are quarterbacks in the draft that can be had, and although I do think Foles is now a proven commodity. Mm-hmm. But I do, so he's, in my opinion, worth a first rounder, but already several years wear on the tires, so to speak. He won't be your quarterback for 15 years in a best-case scenario. He'll be it in a best-case scenario for, 8?
Yeah. And
first round, nothing more.
And that would be good for Philadelphia because they can get somebody, they can get one of these quarterbacks and develop them under Wentz. You know, Wentz is not going anywhere for a long time. He's a
Wentz is going to be there for 12 more years minimum.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can get somebody to develop them up to be a backup.
Wentz is going to be there 12 more years minimum. We will be here for 8 more minutes, and we've got to take a break. It's Tri-City Sports Now.
J. Ray's Heating and Air offers installation, maintenance, ductwork, and